Hi, everyone. It's Kim Allen. Welcome to the Releading Podcast. You know what that means. This is where you come and learn how to pause and pivot in a different direction with some new learnings and proceed with purpose. That's the whole point of releading. We're all releading in some way. So I'm really excited today. I'm even wearing pink because of my very special guest. And this is Jeanne Egan. Hi, Jeanne.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast. Jeanne is one of the amazing women that I talked about in October, and we had to reschedule the podcast, and she is here. And go get a cigarette if you smoke, or a glass of wine if you drink, whatever. Get some more coffee, sit back, because this is going to be a great podcast. I'm really excited. So we're just going to talk real quick about what I do, inviting wonderful guests on like Jeanne. As everyone may know about me, that I've actually authored 2 books. So my first one is Relead, and this is actually about you individually. So for instance, you might be standing on a stage, if you will, and the spotlight is on you. It's all about leadership effectiveness. And my second book, which just published a few months ago, this is about intentional engagement. So once again, when you're looking at an audience, it's like the house lights go up, right? So it's not really about you anymore. It's about understanding your audience. So those are 2 items that we always talk about at the beginning of the podcast. We're talking with Miss Jeanne Egan today. How are you, Jeanne?
I'm good, Kim. How are you?
I'm so happy, and I'm really happy that you're here. And one thing that I do is I like to introduce my very special guest to the world. So do you mind if I do that now?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be telling you Jeanne's story. Okay. Jeanne has a really interesting story, and it actually begins with her. Well, since I've known her, she actually relocated to Florida from the Northeast section of the country. And before she is a realtor, and she's a really good one, and she has a really different way of what she does, which is why I really wanted to tell the world about leadership coming from someone who does what she does in the way that she does. She graduated. She actually worked as a pediatric healthcare professional. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science from Wagner College, and she has a Master's of Occupational Therapy. So she was an OT, and I've worked with OTs in the past, and I have a lot of respect for them. She worked with children and their families in early intervention in private outpatient clinics and educational settings. Jeanne brings a really different skill set to leadership, which is empathy. And you're going to be hearing about that loud and clear, not just from me and not just from Jeanne, but the reviews that she gets from her clients. Jeanne is a licensed licensed realtor, and she has what's called a GRI. And this, I'll have her explain that a little bit more in a second, but what that means for us, it's a higher level of excellence that she went to get this credential, which is really important. All of her former experience revolves around home and community support. She actually is her own message because she experienced the process of relocating a family. And wait till you hear the things that she's done. What she talks about is that she gives her customers a unique perspective of what to expect. And now that she's a local to the area and community, she's really able to be a full service customer experience pro, and which is why she's going to be talking about what's called the diamond level customer service experience because of her expertise. Finally, boating is a big family favorite. So they spend their time on the Intercoastal Waterway and cruising the Gulf of Mexico. Do we do that, Jeanne? All right.
No.
Okay. All right. So now everyone knows about your background. We just have a couple fun things to do before we actually get into Jeanne doing a lot of the talking. I always like everyone to hear the professional background of everyone, but also the human side of them. And Jeanne is one of the most humanistic humans I've ever met in my life. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, Jeanne.
Sure.
What is something that anyone listening or watching this, what is something that we need to know about Jeanne Egan? And then second, what's something that's nice to know about Jeanne Egan?
Something that you need to know. In real estate or just overall?
Whatever makes you happy.
Well, when I set my mind to do something, I do it with pretty much everything I have. I cannot do anything at the bare minimum. If I'm cooking a cake, I am making you the best cake you will ever have. If I am a therapist working with your child, I am putting my heart and soul into making sure that they meet their goals. If I'm your real estate agent, I'm selling you a home, I'm going to be with you from property search to contract to close and beyond, because I like to see things from beginning to end. So I'm very dedicated. And I take my job or whatever it is that I'm doing very personal, and I really immerse myself into it. So that's the answer to the first question. And then your second question, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that one.
What's nice to know about Jeanne Egan?
Which nice to know about me. I love to eat. I love to cook. I love to go out to new restaurants with my friends and kind of compare my talents in the kitchen to that of the local restaurants. So if you are looking for good restaurants, I know a lot of people from the Northeast moving down here are always saying that we don't have a lot of good flair here in our restaurants, which is not true. I am the person to call if you're looking for a local restaurant. So that's a fun fact.
Okay. Well, I love that about you. All right. So we're going to actually turn it over to you now, but I think and you're going to hear me plugging you for the rest of the podcast, because I actually heard about you and I wound up speaking to some of your clients, and the reviews, it's a common thread of all your reviews through all of your customers, and some customers who buy low-end real estate and some who buy very high-end real estate. And there's an amazing consistency because, again, I always say that you are your message. I know that some people watching this have experienced something with a realtor. I know my experiences have never been really positive. And I know that you know that. And I know that you know that just because you get a real estate license does not mean that you have people skills or that you know what to do well. So I'm going to actually slide into this with you talking about what is it that you do that's really so different? I know that you know it's different, but I'm not sure if you realize, me being an author, an executive coach, and a leadership advisor, how what your skill set is would elevate any leader in any corporation or even a small business, that if they would start doing some of the things that Jeanne Egan does. So,
that's a really good question. So I think if in every single profession, there's varying levels of excellence, right? It doesn't matter if you're choosing a real estate agent, a CPA, a lawyer, a doctor, there's always different levels of excellences in business. What I like to bring to the table is I like to really, coming from the therapy world and the therapy background, when people hire either a real estate agent or a professional, those professionals tend to do a lot of the talking. And while I'll always open a conversation and start the conversation, I tend to be more of a listener. People are coming here to buy real estate. This is about their transaction, not about me. I want to listen to what kind of personality types they have. I want to listen to what their needs are and what their wants are in a property. If they're a couple, I want to see how they interact together, because they may have very similar things that they want in a property, or I've had this happen several times, they might have very different ideas of what they want in a property and a lifestyle. So I listen with intent, and I also listen very specifically to hear what kind of connection the customer and I have. Now, immediately, we're also going to have the connection of relocation. I am not a native to Florida. I relocated my whole family here years ago when my children were smaller. My husband relocated. We were relocated with our dog, which is very important to explain with people, because if people have pets, they're part of the family, and that's a change for everybody as well in that situation. So what I like to do is share my experience with those customers. I like to properly prepare them for what they're going to experience. I've been through that before. I've been through the excitement of moving to Florida. I've been through the ups and the downs. I've been through the unknown and the fear, which leads to unknown, which can really withdraw from the excitement of your move. So if I'm properly explaining the process, explaining what to expect, explaining the difference between what can happen in a resale transaction, what can happen in new construction, because they're very different processes. That tends to better prepare customers and reduce some of the anxiety so they can be more excited about their transition.
Right.
And I'm with them every step of the way. I have my hand in every step of that transaction. Now, there's some parts of the transaction that real estate agents aren't really privy to. Let's say your financial, if you're getting a mortgage, we're not privy to that information. But what I can do in that situation is make sure the lender is communicating with the customer, keeping me updated of things that they may not have received from my customer, so I can be that liaison and expedite that information so that there's no hiccups along the way. And, there always is some kind of hiccups along the way. We're all human, but it's
Right.
really how you handle those things and address them to make the whole process, the transaction, as smooth as possible. So when you get to that closing table, my legacy, they're remembering me as this process that went very smooth, and they're happy about it. And then they're helping my small business by, referring their friends and family to me because they had such a good experience.
Right. And it's so interesting, Jeannie, because in my first book, Relead, there's 52 quotes. And my last quote, I should have had it prepared, but I do have it here. And here it is, number 52. What will your leadership legacy be? It's my final quote, and it's my most favorite one, because you know why? No one ever thinks about that. And what struck me about you when we had this conversation about you being a special guest on my podcast, I've never met anyone that even thinks about legacy, let alone talks about it. And you are nowhere near retire. Like you've got so much runway left because you're young. But for anyone to actually think that and put it out there in the universe, what that's telling me is that they work backwards. They know how they want their legacy to read to other people based on how they've shown up in their career and how they've treated people. But knowing that even, you're not even halfway through your career age-wise, but you're actually operating as if you're in legacy mode, which is, I got to tell you, I'm voting for you for something, because I actually cannot believe that people think like that, because I am the person who I'm trying to motivate people or encourage them or influence them, if you will, to start thinking that way. And you're already doing that.
It's a good point to bring up, because I feel I want to provide that concierge service. And the only way to do it is to learn how to be a better communicator. This business is changing all the time. So you have to keep changing with the business. I have sold pretty much all types of residential properties there are. I have sold vacant land. I've sold multiple manufactured homes. I've sold single family homes, condos, villas, executive homes, waterfront property. So I meet people from all over the country, all over the world, who are coming to Florida, and of all different backgrounds, socioeconomic status. So I take all of that information and it betters me for the next transaction. But in addition to that, you have to keep educating yourself. So you brought up Graduate Realtor Institute. So after you get your real estate license, there are several courses you can go to, but this specific credential, it took me 1.5 years to get that. And it really is a higher level of learning where you sit in a group of your peers and there's all different sections and you have an exam after each section, and you get to hear the documentaries of all different real estate agents and how they've dealt with different situations, or the instructors are all certified in specific areas. So it really helps you develop your skills and bring it into every facet of your real estate business. And then just for myself, I am always looking beyond the classroom for better ways to be a leader and to translate and communicate to my customers, because there's customers, some people call me, they only want to speak by phone. Some people only want text. Some people only want email. And you have to deliver the message in the way that they want to receive it, the best that they're going to hear it.
Absolutely.
So that's even when I look about leadership books, and I always have books on my nightstand at the end of the night. And your book for Re-Engage and Re-Lead, those two books have helped me tremendously, knowing that I have to look inside myself, but I also have to read my audience properly to, if I'm sending emails all the time to them, but they want to see me in person and they want to see my body language and they want to talk to me on Zoom, then that's the way I have to deliver the information. So it's very important to continue to grow and educate yourself in this business.
Yeah. And again, the beauty of what you do, Jeanne, because intentional engagement is involving the person that you're communicating with. And one thing that you do, because you're talking about just even different modes of communication, you don't assume anything. You actually ask your client, how do you want me to communicate with you? What's the frequency? Like, you're asking the questions up front. So there's no guesswork, there's no assumptions, and everyone's happy. Again, I think that's one facet of the white, I don't want to say the white glove. It's actually the diamond level of this expertise that you're offering. Because again, a lot of people that I know, leaders who are also influencers, they may not even have, direct reports, if you will. And they're also individual contributors. I mean, the Pied Piper he didn't have people really reporting to him. When you think about it, like, he just, wherever he went, everyone followed. That's being influential, if you will. But again, it's so important that you're taking the guesswork out of that. And I applaud that you're reading any and all leadership books, because we can take information from all of them. A couple things I just want to say, that when I look at your reviews, and I've spoken to your clients who have given you reviews, and then they still continue to give verbal reviews, I'm like, you need to continue, put also that in the reviews for Jeanne. I mean, your reviews read like a symphony. It's really pretty amazing that you're so wickedly organized. And one thing I've heard a few people say about you is that you're not just a step ahead, you're 10 steps ahead. That's diamond level, because there's multiple transactions going on simultaneously. You're not just doing that with a couple. So in other words, if a couple, all right, come and they're your client, what you're doing is that you immediately assume the leadership role, and you're leading them, you're guiding them in multiple facets, where you, because you're saying that you always continue learning, you have become an expert in all those facets, that you can actually give your clients leadership answers for the questions that they have, rather than you saying, oh, you'll have to ask the builder's realtor about that, or you're going to have to ask your mortgage company about that. Like, you know that stuff. And that's where they're saying it really is one-stop shop with you. But because you're 10 steps ahead, I rarely hear those words, Jeanne. And as I said, that's the difference of being one step ahead of your team, if you will, being 10 steps ahead. And again, that diamond level customer service experience and expertise equals someone delighting their client. Well, leaders who have their teams, their clients, right? So when we are delighting the people that report to us, or when you were delighting your customers when they meet you and they sign that you are going to be the realtor to find their next home. And I think you're the one that said to me, like, in fact, you can talk about that. What's that like for them? How stressful is that experience?
It's a very stressful process. And I think relocation is a very specialty area of real estate, because when somebody's relocating to the state of Florida, they are most likely leaving behind their family, their friends, their employment, their community, their social network, their dog's groomer, all their favorite restaurants, their doctors, their favorite pizzeria, their dry cleaner. So and simultaneously, when they're looking and purchasing a home in Florida, they're really tying up all of the lingering things up in their previous state. They may be selling their own home they need the proceeds to purchase their home here. They may be saying goodbye to all their family. They may be, saying goodbye to their job. So it's really a very major transition, and it's a lifestyle change. So people are excited to start anew, but at the end of the day, people really like consistency. So the more they can come here, and when we're looking for homes, I not only show you home, I'll show you the area. So if they're looking in Nokomis, I'm showing them Nokomis Beach, I'm showing them downtown Venice, because people need context. And more often than not, I'm working with customers for 6 months, 8 months, a year. It could even be longer than that. Relocation is a process. So when they come for a visit and they go back to their prospective state, they have context when they're looking at another home and say, oh, this home is where we had lunch that day. This home is near that one beach. This home is near that park or that strip mall. So people want consistency. They want to know where they are. They want to feel grounded. And it's a really important part of the process. You can't just show them homes because it's homes that they're looking for here, but it's also a lifestyle change. So I've been through all of those emotions and experiences, so I can definitely make that connection with my customers. And sometimes when people are moving here, they think they want a person who's native to the area, but areas change and grow. And that person who's a native real estate agent might be wonderful and have a lot of experience with relocation, but they've never done it themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
I lived in New Jersey my entire life. This is the first time I have lived somewhere else. So it was a very emotional, exciting, but nerve-wracking process. So I like to share that with them, my customers, and let them know that it's normal to feel that way. And even so much after closing, when you close, I do not abandon my customers because sometimes that is the time when they're the most vulnerable. They're like, okay, well, now what? So you have to kind of give them ideas of things that are going on in the area, give them those references for doctors and all kinds of restaurants and dry cleaner and pet groomers, so that even if they don't connect with those professionals, they have a place to start.
Absolutely.
So it's very important to have that.
Wow. I think I'm going to hire you just to be my other human, just to take care of me. Okay, so now I'm going to do something really interesting. So for everyone, I actually had a conversation with Jeanne about coming on to my podcast, and I'm so happy that she said yes. So I took copious notes while she was talking, so I'm going to read some things to you. Okay. Yeah, and this comes in the bucket of what Jeanne said to me. Jeanne, you did talk about guiding people and leading them, taking the lead of clients. That's something that you do, which is exactly what you're doing. You don't just take them to a home. Okay. You've elevated that experience up so that, again, it's that umbrella that you're covering, not just the house, it's the area, it's the schools, it's the hospital, it's the food stores, it's where you get your nails done. I mean, it's all those really, right? Right. You do that. Okay. Something else you talked about, I'm going to bring it up again. It's fear of the known and fear of the unknown, right?
Absolutely.
If you want to speak to any of this.
You know, when people come here, their first instinct is to be super excited and they're very gung-ho. They want to buy a house, they want to move in tomorrow. And then reality kind of sets in, and then fear sometimes sets in, because obviously fear equals, is really consistent with the unknown.
Right.
So as I was telling you, if I feel like I could share those experiences with my customers, even share some of my other customers' experiences, just letting them know they're not alone. It's a very common thing to feel this way. Even sometimes preparing them. Sometimes the first 3 months after people move here, it's kind of like a honeymoon phase. And then you might get a little homesick around the holidays, or your family might be doing things without you now, or your friends might be doing things without you. So just ways to kind of negotiate those emotions, and that it's normal to feel like that. And that does pass over time. You have to give it a chance. So it's important to have those conversations, because that's real life stuff, right?
Oh, it is. And it's a deal breaker for some people, but it's a psyche breaker for some people that they can do it. It's not hard to do, but when we have talented humans like you basically holding their hand and saying it's going to be okay, but it's not the what, you tell them the why, and you show them the how, which again, I've not come across that. Something else that you talked about was that you mold yourself to your audience, which again, that was, for me, the light bulb went on, because that's what Re-engage is about, right? Instead of about you being in control, it has nothing to do with that. It's you acquiescing to all the differences that all of your clients bring to the table. Okay, so 2 more things I want to talk about here, because I'm going to save the best for last. You said you don't want the fear to outweigh the excitement. You don't want the fear to outweigh the excitement. That's a Jeanne Egan quote. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, that is very real. I think people can get a certain amount through a transaction, and sometimes they start to second guess. It's not my job to convince anyone to move to Florida. You've come here because you want a change in lifestyle.
Right.
But acknowledging all of those emotions is really important. And sometimes if the fear of the unknown, so that's why being at least a couple steps before the point of the transaction that's going to occur and explaining, okay, we finished with this part, now we're on to this and this.
Yes.
At the end of the day, people just want to be informed. They want to be knowledgeable. They want to know what to expect. And if you can give them that, it really reduces the anxiety and brings back that excitement about why they originally wanted to move here in the first place.
Yeah, I so agree with that. Okay, so for this last bullet, this is the one that blew my mind. Okay, so you said when you were talking to me that after the customer experience, after someone signs and purchases a house, that you ask a client, this is so unbelievable. You ask a client, what was painful for you so that I can feel that pain as well and learn from it from your perspective, my client, and consider this for all future clients.
Right.
Jeanne, who does that? You get the award. No one ever said, what was painful for you? Everyone watching this right now, if you're with your teams or if you go through any changes or whether you're selling real estate, you're missing the mark if you're not asking this question.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will send out some kind of questionnaire after a transaction. It doesn't have to be with a real estate professional. It can be after you purchased a car. How was your experience? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask them personally, or even when I come to see them the first time after we've closed and we've come to see how the house is coming along. There usually are similar themes with customers on what was the most difficult part of the transaction. Now, there are some variations, but there's usually similar consistencies in that. Mm-hmm. So if I can know more about that, I can better prepare before that section of the transaction occurs to let them know, either share stories, share, you're not the only one who's gone through this. This is a better way to attack this. Let's just say they want to communicate with title a certain way. And I have said, well, that sounds like a great idea. I just want to give you some advice that sometimes this happens when you do that. Like, for example, closing on a Friday closing on a Friday of the last day of the month is usually a very stressful closing because everyone's closing that day. It's a very common day to close. People are closing out their documents. So maybe we want to close the day before, or maybe we don't want to close on a Monday when everybody's just getting back to work. Similar ways to do that. If customers are out of state and they have to come back and they're doing a new construction build and they have to come for the final walkthrough on a week before the close usually a complete week after that final walkthrough, new home orientation. You don't want to spend all that money to fly down twice, right? So you can do a mail away, or you can do, you don't have to do an in-person closing. So that saves you some money there, and you're really there for what's most important in seeing your final product. And title knows how to take care of it when it's a mail away or a remote closing, a DocuSign closing. So little pointers like that. Yeah. I want to offer different suggestions during that portion of the transaction so that they have choices and they don't feel so cornered, and they're going to pick the option that works best for them.
Right. You're amazing. You really are.
Thank you.
And actually, Jeanne is one of the amazing women that I think I talked to that in October, we're supposed to do a podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so happy that we had time to talk about all these things that are so important. All right. So I'm going to give you my takeaways here. And then I have something big I'm going to tell the world about you. So my takeaway is that, Jeanne, that you are totally strategic and tactical for everybody all the time. That's really special. I don't ever think of people as being as strategic, which is what you want to do, and tactical, how you want to do it. You are your own message because you do it. And I hear that from your clients. I've spoken to a lot of people who have worked with you and they love you, but I'll tell you, they have you on a pedestal because of your professionalism. which your professionalism, okay, so if we were to look behind Jeanne, is everything that you talked about today, which is amazing. Jeanne has one of the highest give a darn levels of anyone that I've ever met, but also for the buyer and for customer care. And you know what? I don't have an award to give you, but see, Jeannie's my girl because she's wearing pink. I'm wearing pink. I don't have an award, but I will send you my pink Yeti.
Oh, I love it.
Pink Yeti tumbler, right? I will send you that.
Got it.
The thing about you, Jeanne, and I'm going to read this, okay, because I wrote this down that Jeanne, you are a master class in diamond level customer service excellence because you delight other people. They don't, I don't know where their standard is or where their high standard, where the bar is for them, but you come in at the top bar, which is really pretty amazing. And I really thought about what you do. And I'm like, you know what? It's almost like she sells aircraft. I mean, like, who sells aircraft? No one. And if you do, you better know your stuff. You better know your clients. And even though, I know that you fly, but I don't know what you know about airplanes. I know nothing. I just get on them. But like somehow you would find a way to understand it and put it into English so that you could explain it to your customer. I mean, that's just who you are. You're very detailed. You're high level product knowledge toward a specific audience. And you know what? You just make it all look so easy. I really, really applaud you for that.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So I have time for one question before we end. So what's next for you, Jeanne?
I am just going to continue to change alongside of the business. The business is always changing. We had some big changes in the real estate world this year in particular. And I find that if you're willing to listen, again, listening is a really important skill. If you let people talk, they'll pretty much tell you everything that they need from you. And that comes from my therapy background. I've always been a good listener. And you learn about people by listening to them. And right. I feel that I have to keep changing with the business. Those changes that happened this year with the NAR settlement really did not affect my business because some of those things I've been already doing with my customers, and I communicate frequently with my customers. So as long as you're communicating with customers and you're letting them know of recent changes in the business, they appreciate that. And people need to hear it from you personally. Sometimes people need to hear from all three modes. Sometimes I send them an email discussing what we're going to discuss. Right. I'll reiterate it in person. I might even call them. So sometimes you really have to do all three. I'm just going to continue to grow with the business. I have not got into commercial real estate. It's something I might look forward to in the future, maybe dabbling in that a little bit, getting to understand that a little bit. But I'm really happy in the residential side of real estate because then I get to meet people from all, like I said, all over the world, different types of people, families, people who are living here, moving here for a prime. Some people are moving here for an investment property, a snowbirding, a second home. Some people just are, working here in this country from another country for 6 years, and they plan to go back to where they're from. So I love hearing all those stories, and I think it enriches me personally and definitely professionally.
Well, I will say, just on behalf of myself and everyone listening and watching this, just to thank you, Jeanne, for allowing us to take a look inside the world of an expert and highly focused excellence. You're a practitioner in that world, right? So what you're doing is, you happen to be in the real estate industry, but what you're doing, again, if we were to put you in any different industry, again, this would be considered diamond level customer service expertise and excellence. So for everyone else, I just want to close by saying this, that life is short and careers are even shorter. And whatever it is that you want to be along your leadership journey, no matter where it is, no matter what part or what point it is, just be effective. Because again, if you're not effective, when you focus on yourself, and Jeanne has shown us how we can pause and pivot by improving ourselves in a way, it'll take you into a different direction where you can proceed with purpose. That's the whole point of winning. And at the end of the day, it's all about yourself as far as your own leadership effectiveness, but also remember to take a look at who your audience is. So I wanted to thank Jeanne, and until next episode, go be effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for having me.